Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. As you can see, we've got Wade from Open on the line and Julien Bouteloup. So today we'll be discussing a little bit about the Stake DAO options vaults, where we've collaborated with Open to deliver, of course, our ETH, BTC covered calls, as well as that our Frax ETH put selling vault. Get into a little bit more of alpha about some stuff we're hoping to release really shortly, and then after evolving the conversation a little bit, we'll get into a Q&A. So possibly might be a good point to start going through some questions. I'm getting a lot of chat requests asking, what is Squeeth? So
I can jump into it, but I think we get the guys that build it.
What is Squeeth? When Squeeth? That's all I've been hearing on my Twitter for the past 2 months, and now it's here. I don't even know how it works.
So the Squeeth has a lot of different use cases. We launched it on what was the date? January 14th. Gosh, it feels like it's been a while since then. But on last Monday, I guess like the most succinct way to explain what Squeeth is it's a power perpetual that tracks the index of ETH squared instead of, let's say, ETH for perpetual swaps. So for buyers, you have a leveraged position with ETH squared upside. So all your returns are squared. Protected downside because Squeeze gives you exposure to pure convexity, and no liquidations because of the mechanism that we use to build Squeeze. You pay a daily funding rate out of your position, which means like if there's a huge drop in ETH, like your position will drop as well, but you'll lose less compared to a 2x levered perpetual. Now, why we think Squeeze is going to be big for sort of like the typical DeFi user is because Squeeze has a like more beneficial payoff than like 2x levered perp, given that upside. Like users will be paying a higher funding rate for like exposure to that payoff. Now that higher funding rate translates to higher funding by those who short Squeeze. Monday, we're launching a strategy called the crab strategy, which is sort of like a vault that does well when the price of ETH trades sideways. But users who deposit in this vault to depositing ETH in some of Stake DAO's call vaults, they'll be able to earn that premium funding from the funding rate that long Squeeze holders pay. And we've been talking with Stake DAO, launching some other strategies as that might be approximately delta neutral. They might have positive exposure to ETH or negative exposure to ETH. But given that access to that payoff, pure convexity, we think there's going to be a lot of like bullish buyers because everybody's bullish on ETH. But what that translates to in terms of structured products is building some really cool strategies that users will be able to sort of deposit and automatically earn depending on their market outlook.
Wow. Okay. I think my mind is a little bit less frazzled now, but it does make a lot of sense. How do you see this kind of evolving the current landscape of aping into tokens, right? Like, so I've got this kind of interesting question. I'm just going to riff off of it, but this guy is basically asking, I've got $10,000. Why should I ape into Squeeth or these derivatives as against just buying the tokens and farming?
So for
okay, good.
I would say for Squeeth particularly, and one thing I should note is like it's not necessarily a buy and hold strategy. If you have conviction that the price of ETH is going to jump from 3,000 to like 5,000 in the next month, that's when you would want to buy Squeeze, because like you are going to pay a premium funding rate, but if ETH moons, like all your returns are squared. And so that's one reason why you would buy Squeeze instead of holding the underlying asset, because it gives you access to leverage without liquidations. And then I'll kick it over to Julien to talk about why somebody would prefer to deposit into some of the covered call vaults versus like holding the asset or doing some combination of buying ETH.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. The main difference I want to try to clarify this point is we call it like the options, in the sense that um, the strategy is using options to generate a yield. But what we're really giving to the retail, it's an ownership. It's a fractional ownership of this strategy. But the beauty of it, compared to going to a platform to buy options in such a way that you're doing all the manual steps for buying the options and then finding the strike price or whatever. Here, what we're doing, we're using our experience of the traditional market or financial concepts, but we're basically doing the entire process for you. So we built the strategy, we accumulate some liquidity, and then we'll find the best strike price that we believe in the 7 days will get out of the money for us, and basically using those options to predict the market correctly and then understand correctly the different concept of the options to make sure that we can generate yield inside the strategy. So at the end of the day, those compared to on Stake DAO, what you have is a direct access to a strategy that will use options to generate yield. So think about this strategy as if you go to a conservative strategy, for example, the one that we have on Stake DAO, where you basically generate yield from lending market plus auto market makers such as Curve. Well, in this one, it's still the same kind of strategy, but the underlying technology that we use, it's an options technology, and then to bet on the market. But you guys have nothing to do, and we basically do everything: the research, the implementation, and also the settlement, plus the way that we talk into market maker. So at the end of the day, it's really a concept that only normally VCs or hedge fund or quantitative algorithmic traders have access to, and they provide this to their investors in the traditional market. Well, here we can provide this to retail, but the retail has nothing to do. We do the entire process behind the scene, and I think this is the beauty of it. Is we're not actually like selling options in the sense that users have options in their wallet. What we're selling is an ownership of that strategy that will generate yield over time if we predict the strike price correctly.
I think another great thing to mention about that is like users are deposited into an option vault, and at least on L1, gas is so high, which it would eat too much into profits. But once you're deposited into these perpetual vaults that like everything is abstracted away and automated behind the scenes, like that gas cost is distributed across everybody who's deposited in the pool. And so it like there's a lot of improvements, not only from the returns, but kind of just the user experience by nature of like combining assets together and having the Stake DAO team help automate and manage everything.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure it's really interesting to learn a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes. You know, especially using the Black Scholes models or similar for identifying the correct strike price, and consistently hitting these just on the edge, so to speak. So I think the Stake Capital quant desk has been quite good as against the market average picking these, but that's not been the only source of the quote unquote yield which the option strategies provide. So during the week, it's a bit automated into the other strategies that Stake DAO offer, right? Maybe Julien, you can expand a little bit about that.
Sorry, what was the question?
So how does the option strategy generate yield beyond the premiums which it sells?
Oh yeah. So I think that was also the um, I think we are the first one to do it. Is basically the underlying asset that is used as a collateral inside the strategy for minting those options. It's actually a yield bearing asset. So it's for example on ETH strategy, we use when you stake inside the strategy, what it does, it actually use the ETH strategy that is capturing yield from curve trading fees. So even if we get in the money, or like the strategy, we lose the premium and the market maker, they make the money, this strategy is still generating yield. So for example, on the put strategy and put sell, what you have, it's actually using Frax, and Frax is generating quite a significant amount of APY per year. I think we're yielding at 30%. So it's still like those assets that are sitting inside the strategy are actually yield bearing assets that are generating a yield. And I think this is also very, very interesting, and it exists in the traditional market, but this one, those concepts then got integrated by other ones building options. But it's a really nice concept, because you even if you lose the premium, you're still generating yield.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the most
And also,
exciting things about this strategy is the fact that it's in the native asset. So the yield is, as you mentioned, through either trading fees on like stable coins and the premium. It's not in, just some kind of farm and dump token, which is probably the most exciting thing about these vaults. But for now, they're only on ETH, BTC, and a put selling vault, basically on stablecoin, Frax, which I think was probably the first one as well. So another good innovation from the Open team.
And also, I want to add
plans?
something, coming back to the question about why should I invest
please.
in this rather than just taking a bet on the market and then hold the asset. Is that, for example, the call options that we have, the risk, the only risk is obviously if we don't find the correct strike, and then we end up in the money, and then market maker, they will make the money. But the point is, this strategy, since it's a is covered call, even it means that even if we lose the premium, it means that the market won't up significantly. So your assets in dollar denominated, it's still up. So your portfolio, I mean, of course, that you have less ETH, but it's still like the market went up and you made money, because so you're taking the risk, but not a significant risk, I would say.
Yeah, I like to use the mental model for the covered call vaults is that you're earning funding or yield by placing a sell limit order. So if ETH is trading at 3,000 today,
yeah, exactly,
for the following week is 3,600. Like, of course, you want ETH to rise, but you want ETH to rise and stay, excuse me, below that strike price so that you earn the yield and maintain all of your collateral. But even in the event that ETH moons and let's say it goes to 5,000, like, while you might give up the upside, you still are like selling ETH and like making money on that particular strategy. So it's like you're in the risk of the covered call vault, like, is still a beneficial outcome in terms of the price of like ETH. You're just giving up upside beyond whatever strike is chosen for that particular week.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense and provides some important context. Does that also then mean that this theoretically shouldn't change with the amount of TVL in the strategy? So as against traditional like farm and dump, like 10 million, it's a certain amount of APY. If it's like 100 million, that APY reduces. Essentially, by being long in this way, by selling like limit orders, you can scale the strategy to many multiples of figures.
Yeah, that's another thing is like these vaults provide access to regular or sort of like non-incentivized yield. And so even if a whale jumps into the pool, like you're not necessarily getting a lower percentage of like returns because you're a smaller percentage of the pool. You're still getting access to that same proportion of yield that your collateral represents versus a whale coming in and gobbling up all the yield and making that nosedive, and then everybody leaves the pool. So this is sort of like access to real financial strategies that aren't meant to be suppressed when there's like a large depositor.
Amazing. I think that's probably very comforting news for those of us listening on the call. I guess one of the most painful,
and that's why, if I can add, that's the reason why we should all spread the word about people jumping the options market, because they will not see the API going down. It's actually maybe the opposite, because we can build more of them.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's definitely very exciting, and we're seeing quite a lot of, on the analytics side, large deposits flowing into the vaults quite recently, which is great because people are getting the market's best APY, which is, I mean, essentially that's what you want. You want an efficient market, and that's truly what crypto is built for. Um, I guess one of the next avenues would be, when is this going to be stretched beyond, traditional safety assets or blue chips such as ETH, BTC, or stablecoins? When can we see, perhaps some DeFi blue chips coming into these type of strategies?
We'll let Julien talk about how much or decide how much alpha he wants to give away. But we've been having a lot of conversations about whitelisting new assets and launching new vaults in addition to launching on different chains. So I think we'll start to see a lot more of that in the next, I would say, weeks and coming months.
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched base a little bit on what's the plan for Stake DAO. Obviously, build more options, provide those options across layers. So Avalanche, Polygon, probably to start with, and then integrating the different options that we have on top of existing product that we also offer cross vertical. So, for example, the strategies or the premium strategy are also built on top of the existing options that we're currently offering. For example, we could plug, I don't know, like APY. You could basically have some futures on top of the strategy, so you could short or long the APY that those options are generating. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that we can do. What we want is to be to have like a baby step approach, where we currently have nice options. We are the best APY on the market by far. You can compare it to people offering options. So I think we don't offer many options, but the ones that we offer are the best ones, and we want to iterate on other chains as well to be the best there with the very small amount of options that we're currently offering. And then we'll see after.
Okay, very exciting.
I think another point to add there, whenever we're having discussions with Stake DAO, like all of the conversations center around what like Stake DAO users want. And so if there's assets that people in the audience or certain communities do feel like they want, like that's the biggest indicator of what strategies Stake DAO and Opyn would want to work on. And so it's very like user oriented design, but also making sure that the quality of vault stays really high and that we're having sort of industry leading yields there.
Yeah, definitely very exciting. And I think you raise an important point about community. It's probably one of the best moments to open up the floor to any questions. So I've got a couple of questions on the chat, but if anyone is listening in and would like to jump on stage, just put your hand up and we can invite you on board. Okay, so we've got a couple in the chat. One is asking, oh boy, I don't know which one of you wants to take this, but one is asking, what is the difference between the ribbon option strategies and the Stake DAO option strategies? I don't know if Julien, you want to take this one?
Now we add a clear differentiation before because we delivered covered options. So as mentioned, the underlying asset was also generating yield, but Ribbon they also released this one after us. So I think we now have the same kind of option structured. But the key differentiation is, I guess, we are offering actually a positive APY. Just as a no, I mean the thing like we're using like we're pricing those options differently, and we're using more like market maker on the outside. So something that they're not doing, and that's the reason, I guess, the way we currently running those options, making our yield. For example, if you take a look to the ETH covered call strategy that they have, I think it's yielding around 9%, while our options is yielding around 32%. So we buy a couple X way better than Ribbon. But I think the market of options and derivatives and futures, or many different projects are jumping into this space because they're starting to understand the concepts, and we'll have way more people playing in this area. But for now, as far as I can see, we are leading on the APY. But then there's many different projects joining. But currently, if you want to have the biggest APY on the options market, you probably should get into Stake DAO, because that's what we currently have. It might change in the future, but currently we've been pretty good at drafting and finding those strike price and operating off chain the setting of those options.
Yeah, very exciting. I think some alpha there for our users. I know we are slightly over, but we've just got a couple more questions if you guys are with it. One is around the options and how they work week to week. So if I deposit into the option strategy, how does it work? How do I claim my rewards? How does the compounding work? What is essentially the process that happens behind the scenes, and what would I need to do as a user?
Yeah, so super simple. As I said, we do everything for you. So think about normal strategy as if you were joining, you were putting capital inside Aave or Curve, like strategy on Stake DAO, on the ETH strategy or USDC or Frax strategy is exactly the same. You deposit your assets. The only little differentiation is obviously we close and open the options market. I mean the minting of those options and selling on Friday. So you have a window where you can join, and then after that, if you join inside the vault, you will not receive the rewards, the premium that we make if we are those options out of the money. So you have on Friday, you can always, if you join now, you basically join the next batch, which is like on Friday, basically. So it's on a weekly basis. It's called European options, and it's 7 days, and that's it.
I think another thing there is there's a bunch of great resources. I mean, besides the explanations on the Stake DAO option strategy UI. Stake DAO team also created a really easy to follow video on how the vaults work. And I also have a blog post that talks about the user flow and everything that happens sort of behind the scenes and the mechanics, but I'll drop that in the Stake DAO Discord for anyone that might want to dig in deeper.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a few questions come in about the recording of this call as well. So fear not, everything is shared on the Stake DAO YouTube and the Twitch following these calls, and we'll be sure to link in those other video guides and also Wade's exceptional blog. I think we've got just time. I see V requested, so I'll bring you on stage. And yeah, you can feel free to kind of jump in and riff with the guys. So as soon as you're on, just unmute yourself and welcome to the stage.
So I was wondering, do the increase of TVL in the vaults could kind of create a slippage when you are selling the options, and could that have an impact on the premium that you are selling the options at? And second question was, do selling in the open, like the strategy is open, and so market makers know that every Friday there's going to be a very large amount of options that are going to be sold in the markets, could kind of decrease the premium that you can sell the options at. Thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know, Wade, do you want to take that one?
So for, I guess, the second question, it is true that like now there's starting to be more and more sort of teams building option strategies, and market makers know that each week there's going to be a few 100 million in notional volume coming across the desk. And so it's possible that over time it reduces the premium earn, but I think like right now we're still in the first few innings of that. And so would have to kind of defer to the Stake DAO team of whether or not they've actually seen it reduce premium. But like just judging by the APY on the vaults that I've been following over the last couple of months, like it doesn't seem to have been a major hit. And I'm sorry, what was the first question?
Okay, thanks. And the first question was regarding the size of the TVL in the vaults. Like the fact that first it was a few millions and now it's probably approaching 100 millions. Could that impact the price as well, or the premium that can be that the option can be sold at? Thanks.
It could, but I also think, I mean, just by speaking to different market makers, the amount of liquidity that they have to spread across these options and different strike prices, like there's still a lot of ways to go. And Hubert can sort of like talk about that a little bit more, but like the size of the option vault right now, like slippage, in my opinion, like hasn't been an issue. But I'll let Hubert talk about that since he's the man behind the scenes pulling all the levers.
Let's get Hubert on board as well on the.
Yeah, I think that Hubert's mic is not going to make it. Unfortunately, he's unable to participate.
Okay.
Well, let's try. Let's try again.
Well, in the meantime, maybe we can take another question.
Yeah, so we have one of the other questions is there any way that you can add an extra yield on top of it in governance tokens? I guess this is more of a request.
Yeah, you could. That's maybe something that will come in coming weeks, either SDT tokens on top of the options that we're currently offering, We also been looking into some nice, obviously, not sure if you've seen, but we are the first one to deliver this kind of meta layer of NFTs based on the activity that you are doing on the entire DAO. And one of the NFTs that we have are kind of similar to bonds in the sense that they give you access to the. Can you mute yourself, Hubert, for a sec? I think we can hear. And then so you can, for example, we have an NFT, a bunch of NFT that give you access to arbitrage profits that we're doing on Avalanche. So this kind of things that we have different categories of NFTs that give you access to different strategies, and depending on the rarity of the NFT that you have, then you can access with different amount of capital. You can get a percentage of those rewards. Well, we could do exactly the same on the options the year that we currently have. So either it's a governance token, so SDT, that will be distributed back to people that are providing value on the options, plus NFT market that we're currently powering for exotic strategy. Yeah, this is something that we've been looking into.
Yeah, that is really exciting. I think we had a couple of people from the audience put their hands up. So feel free to do so once again. I think there was some technical issues. In the meantime, so this is the final question which we have for you guys, and it is: where can we find out more information about becoming a market maker that you sell to?
Is the question like how people can become market maker, or they want to understand how we do with the process we do with the market makers? If it's
the way that it's phrased seems more like a request. So I don't know if CTHOLU, I think that's how I pronounce it. If you want to send that in again, but it seems like if I was a market maker, how would I participate in the auction?
Yeah, if you're market maker, you can just send a request on Discord and reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to have a chat with you guys. And the more market makers we have, the better it is for our strategies. So definitely something that we want to get into. But then if it's about being a market maker, then it's a different question, because this is not that easy. Well, you need to understand very well the concept of options and not just depositing into the strategy. You really need to understand and also use at the moment, for example, like centralized exchanges, because you will need to either take the counter trade on the platform or hedge yourself with another asset, all the different things. And we're talking about quite a reasonable amount of money, so it's not accessible by anyone. I mean, by anyone. It has to be. It's a job basically. It's not just something that you can you can raise your hand and get those options.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that is the end of it all. So unless you guys want to put your hand up to shout out about something else, I don't know, Wade or Julien, if you have anything to shout out about. But beyond that, I think we can close this really informative call and hopefully have you back on, Wade, when we release the thing which we can't talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing I wanted to shout out is like definitely do your research and like take a deep dive into the resources to understand like how the vaults work, what the risks are. I think a lot of sort of the like pushback on structured products right now is people like say they're riskier than like some of the yield farming and magic money that they could learn elsewhere. But I think as the market matures, like people who are seeking yield will have to like deploy actual financial strategies that are being built right now. Beyond that, I think if you're a herd member and a vocal community member, I would encourage you to jump in the Stake DAO Discord and talk more about these strategies and voice what you would like to see, because that really does impact how we work with Stake DAO and what we look to deploy next. So yeah, I think like it's been really amazing to watch the Stake DAO team execute like they have. I mean, I can remember having conversations a few months ago about these vaults where we had 0 TVL and now we're approaching 100 million. So I think hats off to everyone at Stake DAO for kicking ass. And I'm even more excited to see where this goes this year.
Yeah, likewise, we definitely echo those thoughts. When 200 million? That is the question. Okay,
Or you
so
mean like 200 million in one strat? That's the mission in each of them.
Whoa. Okay. Let's go. No, that's beautiful. Thank you all very much for joining us.
I mean, if the future, what we're trying to bring, we're trying to get into like $500 million, like lots of options being sold on a weekly basis. This will be like I think bringing the options market to very high level in terms of volume made a year, approaching like 5 or 6 billion of options worth of options being sold a year. This is pretty insane.
Yeah, it seems like a very exciting future. I think we'll definitely have to have you back on, Wade, and perhaps even some of the other open team, a little bit behind the scenes, as we dive into this crazy world a little bit more. And yeah, so we'll close it off there. I'll let you guys say goodbye, and then hopefully you guys can join us next time, whoever is listening out there.
Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.